I didn't know that Whitney's relationship was more than just friends till later on in our marriage. Robin and Whitney's relationship was what it was. You know, when you're newly married, you want to spend all your time with the person that you're newly married to. And third person is, usually, hang on her.
Have you ever imagined that the greatest icons, the people we admire and look up to as guiding lights, had to live in the darkness of their own lives? They stand at the peak of fame, under the bright stage lights, with millions of people cheering their names. But did you know? Behind that perfect smile are secrets they've struggled to keep hidden their entire lives. Because once exposed, everything could come crashing down. Buried under the weight of stigma and unimaginable pressures, they chose to live in silence. We're talking about Whitney Houston, the queen of timeless love songs, or Little Richard, the father of rock and roll, who took his secret sexual orientation to the grave. Who else is on this list? Can you guess? And do you know what they did to survive the fear of being discovered? These individuals paid a heavy price to protect themselves in this glamorous yet cruel world. Let's listen to their life stories and feel the tears behind the spotlight. 1. Whitney Houston. The tragic irony of a music icon and the secret she took to her grave. Whitney Houston, the singer with one of the most captivating voices and unparalleled emotional power in music history, was not only an icon of a generation, but also an endless source of inspiration for millions. With over 200 million albums sold worldwide and classic hits like I Will Always Love You and Greatest Love of All, Whitney reached the peak of her career, winning numerous Grammy Awards and leaving a profound mark on music history. But behind the glamour, her life hid painful corners, where she had to live under societal pressure and inner turmoil. On February 11, 2012, Whitney's death at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in California shocked the world. Investigations revealed she drowned in her bathtub, with cocaine use and heart disease being contributing factors to the tragedy. But before reaching that heartbreaking end, Whitney had to endure extreme loneliness and secrets that prevented her from living true to herself. In the memoir A Song for You, 2019, Robin Crawford, Whitney's closest friend, revealed a shocking truth. Whitney Houston had a same-sex relationship with Robin when she was younger. That love was buried by the pressures of family and society. Whitney's mother, Cissy Houston, a devout woman, firmly opposed homosexuality, creating an invisible wall that prevented Whitney from living true to her heart. In the 80s and 90s, publicly acknowledging a same-sex orientation was unthinkable for a star like Whitney. She not only faced the pressure of maintaining the image of the perfect woman in the eyes of the public, but was also restrained by the fear of her career falling apart. Rumors about her relationship with Robin Crawford began to leak, causing the world to doubt her and look at her with judgment. It was as if they were waiting for her to fall, as if any mistake could erase everything she had built. These internal struggles may have contributed to pushing Whitney into addiction and toxic relationships. She was like a silent warrior, fighting to protect the image she had created over decades, but at the cost of her freedom and personal happiness. Although the secrets were only revealed after her death, Whitney Houston still earned the public's respect as a timeless music icon. Her tragedy helped the world better understand the pressures the LGBTQ+ community faces in the entertainment industry. Whitney's legacy lives on, not only through her voice, but also through the message of love and acceptance. 2. Little Richard, the king of rock and roll and the tragic double life full of obsession. Little Richard, the architect of rock and roll, was the blazing flame of 1950s music. With hits like Tutti Frutti and Long Tall Sally, he didn't just change the way the world viewed music, but also became an endless inspiration for artists like the Beatles and Prince. His energetic performance style, bold appearance, and explosive voice created an irreplaceable legend. On May 9, 2020, Little Richard passed away in Tullahoma, Tennessee, from bone cancer, closing a glorious life, but one filled with silent pain. Throughout his career, he fought not only with societal prejudices, but also with deep personal questions about himself. He publicly stated that he might be bisexual, but that was only a small part of the story. In the mid-20th century, when LGBTQ+ stigma was still intense, Little Richard was caught in a tug-of-war between religious faith and his natural instincts. As a famous artist, he had to maintain a perfect image in the public eye. Any sign of homosexuality could destroy his career. Rumors about his same-sex relationships spread, but Richard never confirmed them. He wavered between admitting and denying, as if torn between truth and the fear of being rejected. Every time he stepped on stage, he wore an invisible mask. The powerful masculine image the public saw was just a facade to hide the internal struggles. As the rumors spread, the pressure mounted. Richard lived in fear that just one confession would destroy everything he had built. In his later years, Richard publicly acknowledged his sexual orientation, a move that, though late, was still courageous. Perhaps he realized that living true to himself was more important than anything else. His life was not only a testament to the development of a talent, but also a lesson in the struggle to be oneself. The secrets, contradictions, and pain made Little Richard's story a haunting tragedy, but it also inspired the community. He wasn't just the symbol of rock and roll, but also a symbol of resilience, leaving a legacy that transcends music and touches the hearts of those who dare to live authentically. 3. Josephine Baker, the Queen of Paris and the secrets buried behind the spotlight. Josephine Baker, a name that illuminated the 1920s and forever etched her legacy in history as a timeless icon. The first African-American singer and dancer to conquer Paris, she transformed the stage into her own domain, where she was revered as a goddess. With her mesmerizing talent and allure, she became an international phenomenon, breaking through racial prejudices. Not just an artist, Baker was also a hero of the civil rights movement and a bold spy during World War II, contributing to the French resistance. But behind her extraordinary achievements was a woman with a heart full of wounds, torn between fame and the truth about herself. On April 12, 1975, Josephine Baker passed away in Paris from a brain hemorrhage just after a performance celebrating her career. An unexpected ending to a life full of passion and energy, yet hiding untold pain. She was famous for her free-spirited lifestyle, but her same-sex relationships, such as her quiet affair with Frida Kahlo, were only revealed through later documents and memoirs. In the era she lived, being openly gay was nearly impossible, especially for a black artist who had already overcome so many barriers to achieve glory. Josephine Baker on stage was the embodiment of charm, boldness, and freedom. But when the lights dimmed, she faced loneliness and internal conflict. Her same-sex relationships were like hidden puzzle pieces, never fully completed. Every dance step, every laugh was a mask to protect her true self from the prying eyes of society. As a pioneer, she not only had to face racial prejudice, but also the pressure to suppress her sexual orientation. She may have chosen to live freely yet quietly, not wanting to lose her career or become a target of public attack. At that time, the world wasn't ready to accept a woman who was both a beauty icon and gay. But the price for her silence was the lingering pain of wanting to be loved sincerely, but having to hide her emotions. Through the ages, Josephine Baker became a model of resilience and strength. She broke every social boundary, becoming a symbol of freedom and equality. The secrets and internal conflicts she faced didn't dim the brilliance she left for the world. Instead, they made her story even more powerful, inspiring everyone who dares to live authentically. 4. James Baldwin, the burning writer and his unyielding battle with social prejudice. James Baldwin, an irreplaceable icon of 20th century literature and social activism, carved his name into history with works such as Go Tell It on the Mountain and Giovanni's Room. Born during an era of profound racial segregation, Baldwin not only wrote about the pain of African Americans, but also courageously introduced the issue of homosexuality into literature, a taboo subject at the time. On December 1, 1987, in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, France, he died from stomach cancer, but what he left behind remains an indelible legacy. Baldwin never concealed his sexual orientation, but he never publicly declared it either. Instead, he allowed the words in Giovanni's room to speak for him. The tragic love story in the book was not just a confession, but also a bold confrontation with a conservative society. In an era where even the slightest sign of difference could destroy one's reputation, Baldwin wrote as if he were burning down all barriers. But this fire not only illuminated the truth, it also consumed his own soul. He was boycotted and judged, yet remained steadfast on his path. Baldwin understood that if he let society define him, all the messages of freedom and equality he fought for would be distorted. Perhaps he chose to let his pen lead the way, knowing that words would be twisted by those opposed. Baldwin's story is not only the pain of a homosexual man during a time of repression, but also the triumph of willpower and courage. He did not succumb to societal pressure. He never stopped fighting for the truth, and he left a monumental legacy of freedom for the world. It is no exaggeration to say that James Baldwin was not just a writer. He was a blazing torch in the dark night of prejudice. 5. Bayard Rustin, the forgotten figure behind A Great Revolution. Bayard Rustin is a name associated with the resounding victories of the American Civil Rights Movement. But few know that he was the mastermind behind the historic 1963 March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech. A close advisor to King, Rustin dedicated his life to the ideals of social justice. Rustin lived openly as a gay man throughout his life, a truth that made him a constant target of attack from both enemies and allies. His 1953 arrest for homosexual conduct became a stain that many used to deny his contributions. While the world praised Martin Luther King Jr., Rustin was sidelined, as if society could not accept a man fighting for justice while carrying such a secret. But Rustin never surrendered. He didn't try to hide his true self, nor did he bow to the pressure of choosing between the civil rights movement and LGBTQ+ rights. It is astounding how he stood firm amidst waves of discrimination, continuing to organize, lead, and push for monumental changes. One could say Rustin lived his life in the shadow of stigma, but it was that very shadow that created a powerful light for future generations. Even though he has been forgotten by some conservatives, in the hearts of those who love freedom, Rustin remains a symbol of sacrifice and resolve, a reminder that the struggle for truth is always a challenging yet worthwhile path. 6. Luther Vandross, the R&B legend, living in loneliness and fear of the truth being exposed. Luther Vandross, one of the legendary voices of R&B, made his mark with heartfelt ballads like "Dance with My Father" and "Here and Now." His entire career was a journey to musical heights, with 8 Grammy Awards, including the 2004 Grammy for Album of the Year. Yet despite being a shining star, Luther's life concealed dark secrets that few knew. Despite his tremendous talent and fame, Luther Vandross never publicly acknowledged his sexual orientation. Rumors about him being gay circulated throughout his career, but Luther remained silent. Was this silence voluntary, or was it a painful choice in an industry, especially R&B, where the image of a male artist was intrinsically tied to his appeal to women? Coming out might have cost him not only his audience, but also the reputation he worked so hard to build. And that was the haunting fear Luther had to live with his entire life. Each of Luther's performances was not just a musical event. It was where he had to shine, despite the undercurrents of society and the whispers around him. The image of a great, handsome, and charismatic music star became the mask Luther had to wear throughout his career to hide his true self. Every gesture, every step he took on stage had to be cautious, because one mistake One reveal could destroy everything. Perhaps Luther didn't want to sacrifice his career to face the societal coldness, a society that at the time could not accept a gay man in the music industry. 7. Billie Holiday, the jazz legend, torn between glory and tragic secrets. Billie Holiday, the jazz legend, became famous for her emotional voice and timeless songs like Strange Fruit, a song condemning racial discrimination. Born into poverty, she conquered the music world, leaving a deep mark with her unique and powerful style. However, beneath the glitter of her career, her life was filled with unhealed wounds. Over time, the pain, the haunting memories of the past, and secrets never before told began to surface. Not only was she known for her enchanting voice, but Billie Holiday was also repeatedly mentioned for her mysterious relationships, especially her same-sex ones. She once had an affair with actress Tallulah Bankhead, a story that was kept hidden, only revealed after her death. In a society rife with stigma, where homosexuality was seen as a sin, these relationships had to remain secret. Surely, she didn't want her life to be buried under criticism. And so Billie always tried to avoid curiosity about her sexuality. Billie lived in both the light and the shadow of her illustrious career, but it was also a tragedy. Addiction, broken family life, and profound loneliness always haunted her. However, what hurt her the most was having to conceal parts of herself that she could never reveal. The legendary nights on stage were where she sang hauntingly, but also where her pain was most intense because she had to hide herself. Each song felt like a sigh, a scream she couldn't speak, about a life she couldn't live authentically. Perhaps Billie Holiday chose silence, not disclosing her sexual orientation to protect her rising career. In the music world, especially for black artists, coming out as gay during that time could have cost her everything. Public rejection, limited performance opportunities. Yet, it was in this pain that she created great music, songs that will forever echo. Throughout her life, Billie Holiday was not just a musical icon, but also a brave warrior, facing all the challenges of malicious rumors. Though the wounds of stigma, loneliness, and suffering never healed, the legacy she left behind will live on through time. 8. Richard Pryor, the great comedian, and his tearful, secret life. Richard Pryor, a legend in the comedy world, was not only a prominent name with outstanding performances, but also a pioneer in tackling social issues, from racism to poverty. With his unique talent, he became the most influential figure in stand-up comedy history, leaving an unforgettable legacy. However, after his death on December 10, 2005, in Encino, California, the world learned of the hidden secrets in his life. Only after Richard's death did rumors of his same-sex relationship with Marlon Brando surface through the 2018 memoir of his close friend Quincy Jones. Stories Pryor once joked about regarding exploring same-sex relationships became the talk of the town, though the level of authenticity remains controversial. Throughout his career, Pryor never openly discussed his sexual orientation, possibly because he lived and worked in a world where gender and differences were never easily accepted. Richard lived in paradox, a great man joyful on stage. Yet behind that was unimaginable pain and obsession. His same-sex relationships may have been an unavoidable secret, but Richard seemed reluctant to let that truth be exposed too soon, fearing it would ruin the reputation and career he had worked so hard to build. And after all, Richard remained Richard, a comedy legend who will forever live in the hearts of the public, never letting his pain and secrets overshadow his comedic brilliance. 9. Phyllis Hyman, a legendary life and the secrets hidden behind the spotlight. Phyllis Hyman was one of the shining stars in soul and R&B music, with her powerful and emotional voice creating legendary songs like You Know How to Love Me and Living All Alone. Not only was she prominent in music, but she also made a deep impact in entertainment, even earning a Tony nomination for her role in the musical Sophisticated Ladies. But behind that brilliance, Phyllis Hyman fought battles with dark corners that no one knew. Her death on June 30th, 1995, due to suicide caused by depression, shocked the world. But that was only the tip of the iceberg, as inside her were explosive secrets that only became revealed after her passing. Though Phyllis's talent was recognized worldwide, her personal life was a series of unresolved contradictions. Under the bright stage lights, she always had to hide a part of herself. Rumors about Phyllis's same-sex relationships emerged after her death, making people reconsider the mysterious life of one of the most legendary voices. Throughout her career, she never openly addressed her sexual orientation, perhaps due to societal stigma toward homosexuality, especially in the Black community and the challenging entertainment industry. In every performance, Phyllis likely fought an internal battle. When the lights shone on her, she became a star. But when the night fell, she lived with pains she couldn't express. The cost of her silence was long, lonely nights and simmering depression. She couldn't overcome the fierce emotional storms inside her. In the eyes of the public, Phyllis remained a symbol of allure and talent, but no one knew the secrets that tormented her day by day. The price was a tragic death, a heartbreaking end for a woman both talented and strong, yet always confronting pains she could never share. 10. Barbara Jordan, the quiet struggle of a Black lesbian woman in a politically hostile world. Barbara Jordan, a symbol of power and intellect, was the first Black woman elected to the Texas House of Representatives and the first from the southern United States to enter Congress. With her brilliant oratory skills, she left the world breathless when she spoke during the impeachment proceedings of President Nixon. But behind those successes was a life full of secrets that could never be publicly revealed. In a society rife with prejudice, especially in the South, Barbara Jordan never spoke about her sexual orientation. In reality, she had a long-term relationship with Nancy Earl, but it was only revealed after her death. For most of her life, she kept this relationship hidden, as if it were a scar that, if exposed, would destroy all her political efforts. In a conservative political world where the rights and careers of Black people and LGBTQ+ individuals were still at risk, being open about her sexual orientation could have ruined her reputation. Barbara Jordan's silence about her personal life may have stemmed from the fear of being pushed out of politics. In a time when LGBTQ+ rights were disregarded, keeping her true self hidden became a survival strategy. But despite all the difficulties, Barbara Jordan remains an inspiration for future generations, not just through her political achievements, but also through how she quietly fought for equality, becoming a symbol of resilience and intellect. 11. Sylvester, the glorious disco icon who paid a heavy price for living authentically. Sylvester, with iconic hits like You Make Me Feel Mighty Real and Dance, Disco Heat, captured the hearts of music lovers and became a symbol of the 1970s and 1980s. Not only was he an artist, but he was a musical revolution, breaking down gender and style prejudices, becoming a role model for self-expression. From the stage to his personal life, Sylvester always lived authentically and inspired the LGBTQ+ community. But behind the glitz of extravagant outfits and disco beats, Sylvester was a person struggling with an ongoing internal battle. His coming out about his sexual orientation in a world full of prejudices and homophobia wasn't easy. Surely, Sylvester's openness about his sexual orientation came at a high cost, with public scrutiny and colleagues distancing themselves from him. But throughout his life, he never stopped challenging societal boundaries. If you ask whether a disco star could survive in a world full of criticism and envy, the answer is yes. And Sylvester is proof of that. The saddest part is that in 1988, Sylvester passed away due to complications from AIDS a disease that fueled malicious rumors about the dangers of homosexuality. His journey wasn't easy, even after death, but his refusal to hide his identity made him a symbol of freedom and defiance. Though his life ended in tragedy, the mark he left on music history and the LGBTQ+ community will never fade. Sylvester lives on as a legend who dared to be true to himself in a world full of challenges. 12. Truman Capote, the gay literary king, and his tragic life reflected in his work. Truman Capote, one of the most brilliant writers of the 20th century, shook the literary world with legendary works like Breakfast at Tiffany's and In Cold Blood. With his sharp writing style, he not only captivated readers, but also became a pioneer in the nonfiction genre. But behind those chilling stories and haunting prose was a life full of pain that few knew about. Capote openly identified as gay, and his life was far from simple. He was famous for his flamboyant style and close relationships with famous personalities, making him the center of many rumors. As a rebellious writer, Capote saw living openly as part of his identity and an image-building strategy. While his time was somewhat more progressive in artistic and intellectual circles, it did not mean he could be open without paying a high price. Despite his outwardly liberal persona, Capote could not escape the intense inner battles, especially when the stories of crime and scandals began to weigh down on him. His behaviors beyond the ordinary, unusual relationships and extravagant lifestyle led to him being criticized as a criminal in his own life. However, it was this turbulent life that helped Capote become a legend, a figure that would never fade from readers' hearts. His personal rebellion and breakthrough in literature left an indelible mark. 13. Paul Winfield, Hollywood star and the painful price of silence. Paul Winfield, a talented actor, made a strong impression in film and television with his emotional performances. With an Oscar nomination for Sounder, 1972, and an Emmy for Picket Fences, Winfield was not only a rising star in the entertainment industry, but also a symbol of dedication and talent. But behind the spotlight, he hid a secret that could completely change the image the world had of him. Throughout his career, Paul Winfield kept his private life discreet, avoiding attention on his personal matters. But after his death on March 7, 2004, shocking details began to emerge. Winfield was not just a man of profound roles, but also a gay man who had been in a relationship for over 30 years with designer Charles Gillen Jr. A perfectly hidden love story in a world full of scrutiny and societal prejudice. Living in the shadows of his sexuality was not an easy decision. As an African-American man in Hollywood during the 20th century, where racial discrimination and gender bias were rampant, coming out could mean the end of his career. Winfield wisely chose silence, protecting himself from potential boycotts, though it came at a cost. What was the price of this silence? It meant hiding his love and the partner he had spent 30 years with. 14. Jackie Moms Mabley, the queen of comedy who became a legend, living true to herself. Jackie Moms Mabley, one of the greatest pioneering comedians, left a lasting impression on fans with her sharp, satirical humor and straightforward commentary on sensitive issues. She was not only an artist, but a symbol of resistance, speaking out strongly during a time when Black women and the LGBTQ+ community were marginalized. At the peak of her career, Mabley was one of the first to make the world re-examine deeply rooted societal prejudices. But behind every joke, there was a huge secret that only she fully understood. While she made people laugh out loud, Mabley carried an unspeakable pain. A Black lesbian woman living true to herself in an era rife with sexual and racial prejudice? It was not easy. The personal aspects of her life and the relationships that were exposed could have wiped out all the efforts she put into building her image and career. Behind her alluring smile and cheerful stories on stage was an ongoing struggle to survive in a harsh world where she faced both racism and homophobia. Yet she continued to stand strong. Despite everything, Mabley became a comedy legend, a brave woman who lived true to herself. Her resilience is a testament to an undefeatable spirit, and her story continues to inspire future generations of artists, overcoming all challenges and adversity. 15. Nell Carter, a stage star with a tearful secret, a lifetime of hidden pain. Nell Carter, the familiar name to fans of the sitcom Gimme a Break, made waves in the entertainment world with her extraordinary singing and acting talent. In 1978, she won a Tony and Drama Desk Award for her role in the musical Ain't Misbehavin', becoming an icon in the world of theater. But behind the spotlight, a huge secret was hidden throughout her life. Carter had been married to a man, but also had relationships with women. After her death, many sources revealed that she had openly identified as bisexual to those close to her. Her entire life was intertwined with battles, not just on stage, but in her private life as well. Nell Carter's career spanned the 1980s and 1990s, a time when bisexuality and the LGBTQ+ community were still sensitive topics, especially in the entertainment industry. Carter might have kept her sexuality hidden to avoid career backlash and protect her privacy from unwanted attention. She faced not only career pressure but societal threats, where living true to oneself could mean losing everything. Thankfully, with her strength and perseverance, Nell's life eventually found peace in her soul. 16. Sherman Hemsley, a Hollywood icon. Living in solitude. No one understood. Sherman Hemsley, who made a lasting impression on America with his role as George Jefferson in the legendary sitcom The Jeffersons, carved out a name in the hearts of audiences. Hemsley's career not only marked humorous moments on screen, but also served as a testament to resilience and determination to overcome life's challenges. But no one knew that while he was a bright star with unparalleled talent, his private life remained shrouded in darkness. Despite being loved by millions, Sherman Hemsley lived with loneliness and constant rumors about his sexuality. People speculated that he was gay, but there was never an official acknowledgement from Hemsley. The rumors about his personal life could have stemmed from unclear signs in his relationships and lifestyle. Was it true? Could Sherman have had same-sex relationships and kept his true nature hidden to protect his career and himself from the harsh societal and entertainment industry prejudices of the time? Whatever the answer, we cannot deny that Sherman Hemsley rose above all difficulties, becoming a symbol, a talent that no one could deny. He was also a role model of an artist who lived fully with what he had. 17. Bessie Smith, the blues queen with a shocking secret, never revealed. Bessie Smith, not just a name, but a great icon in the world of blues music, is known for songs that have captivated generations, such as Downhearted Blues. She made a huge impact on the music scene in the 1920s, 1930s, earning the title of the Empress of the Blues, not just for her talent, but also for her resilience in overcoming the difficulties of an era full of prejudices. But behind those sweet lyrics, Bessie Smith lived in a harsh and conservative society. The name, the Empress of the Blues, didn't only make her shine on stage, but also built a strong wall that kept her from fully expressing herself. Although Smith was married, she was also known to have had same-sex relationships. This information was revealed through her memoirs and historical documents about her life. The reason she couldn't live true to herself was because, in the 1920s, 1930s, society and the cultural art scene were still very conservative about gender and same-sex love. Despite being a huge star in music, she might have kept her sexuality hidden, out of fear of being condemned or affecting her career. Moreover, the sensitivity around the topic of homosexuality at the time forced her to keep her private life hidden, even though over time, details about her relationships have surfaced. Perhaps in her lifetime, Bessie Smith had to avoid harsh discrimination due to her sexuality, but that could not overshadow her extraordinary talent. No matter how prejudiced society was, Bessie Smith will always remain the queen of blues music, proving that music and talent can break through all societal barriers. 18. Billy Strayhorn, the rare gay star, dared to be himself in a world full of prejudices. Billy Strayhorn, a name synonymous with legendary jazz compositions like Take the A Train and Lush Life, is one of the unforgettable artists in American music. His close collaboration with the legendary Duke Ellington not only produced great musical works, but also solidified his position in the music industry. Strayhorn was not just a brilliant composer, but also a fighter who dared to live authentically in a challenging era. In a world of music filled with prejudice and discrimination, Billy Strayhorn not only lived openly as a gay man, but also proved that, despite the skeptical stares, he could still shine. He was one of the few artists of his time who did not hide his identity and was respected within the music community. Strayhorn's openness about his sexual orientation might have stemmed from confidence in his personal identity and acceptance within the artistic community. Ultimately, he became more than just a composer. He became a symbol of courage and honesty in a dark period. The music community at the time might not have fully embraced diversity, but Strayhorn not only survived, but thrived. His confidence and love for music helped him write classic works that are still beloved today. It was this honesty with himself and his drive to succeed that made Strayhorn an immortal legend, as well as a beacon of light for the LGBTQ+ community in music. 19. Octavia Butler, the pioneering science fiction writer who hid a shocking secret about her sexual orientation. Octavia Butler is a name that cannot be omitted from the science fiction literary world. With acclaimed works like Kindred and Parable of the Sower, she created unforgettable turning points in the genre. Not only was she the first African-American woman to win both a Hugo and Nebula Award, but Butler was also awarded the Genius Grant from the MacArthur Foundation, an incredible achievement for a woman in the literary world. However, behind her dazzling career lies a mysterious life, particularly regarding her sexual orientation. Although she never publicly revealed her sexual orientation, the deeply complex LGBTQ+ characters in Butler's works made many wonder, was she part of this community? In a conservative society where differences were not accepted, Butler may have chosen to keep her personal life private to protect her career. The complex gender characters in her novels were not only part of her artistic creativity, but also a way of showing support for the LGBTQ+ community without needing to explicitly say so. In a world where Black women and the LGBTQ+ community face numerous challenges, Butler chose to protect herself. Not revealing her sexual orientation didn't mean she wasn't a fighter for equality and diversity. On the contrary, she was a pioneer, quietly fighting through the stories and characters she created, leaving a powerful mark on literary history. This video has come to a close, and we've just explored the dark corners of the lives of famous figures who kept their sexual orientation hidden until death. They not only faced difficulties in their careers, but also had to fight against prejudice and discrimination in a society full of bias. Yet, they lived, contributed, and left lasting marks on humanity. These stories are not just lessons in resilience and caution, but also a reminder to respect differences and protect the freedom of every individual. What do you think about these secrets? Would things have been different if they had chosen to live authentically? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to join us as we uncover more hidden stories behind other unforgettable stars.